Welcome back to SAP Careers and Job Seekers Group. Today we're going to talk about the role of a system administrator. A system administrator is somebody who looks after not only the system landscape and the architecture, but also does day-to-day maintenance and performance upkeeping, as well as configuration for moving transports, and generally overall health of the system belongs to him and it is his responsibility. So let's dive into this and find out what does a system administrator do in SAP landscape or in the SAP world. So the first thing is what we call as architecture. So the system architecture comprises of a schematic which tells how the systems are going to be displayed out, or how are they going to be infrastructure is going to be laid out in the company, and this includes number of servers or instances. For example, the first one would be something called a development server. So a development server is something that you need to install, he needs to configure. So there are three levels of installation. So the OS installation, the database installation, and the application installation. So he will do the installation of the development server, he'll do the installation of QA server, quality assurance server, and he'll also do installation of the production server. In addition, there are some extra systems that some companies use depending on the size on the organization and the requirement of the company. So number one is called Sandbox. And the Sandbox is used primarily for a POC, proof of concept. So if the company wants to implement, let's say, a new order type or a new delivery type, they will go out and configure that in the Sandbox, and that will become a proof of concept for the management to get a demo and chart out whether it's a good fit or not. So we also do a what if analysis on a Sandbox, so that if this process is not good, what happens if another process is better than this one. So that's the first function of the Sandbox. The development server is the native system for all configuration and development to take place in a project. The next one is the QA system, the quality assurance system. So you actually do configuration in the development or customization, you transport it, or you move the configuration from the development to QA using transport management system. And in the TMS, you can either do it directly by connecting the system. You can also use DevOps functionality, or you can also export and import the transports into the quality assurance server using tools like PUTTY, which is called PUTTY. And there are a number of other tools available in the industry. So you will go out and actually move the transports to QA, where they will do quality assurance and different types of testing is done, and ultimately UAT, user acceptance test, is done. And then there is another server called pre-prod. The pre-prod server is used for load testing. Pre-prod is the closest replica of the production server in terms of data load, in terms of interfaces. So interfaces may not be the real interface, but you try to simulate the interface that are there in a real server. So when you do a pre-prod configuration, you have to keep in mind the load that is going on the production server, because before moving to production, a lot of companies would do a load testing, which is called a response time or a latency testing. And then they would go out and image the production or refresh the pre-prod from the production server. They'll go out and do this load testing or a response type testing or a benchmarking. They will also check out all the interfaces by putting a value true or false, or what we call a 0 and 1. And you put a breakpoint and check all those interfaces. And once the UAT is done and the production load test is done in the pre-prod, then you would cut over. That means the final moving of transports and some of the core configuration which cannot be transported needs to be done in the production server. So that's the first task that a system administrator does. And we also call him as the basis consultant. So he would do installation, configuration, and management, both at the OS, database, infrastructure level, as well as the application level. And he has to upkeep the server at the same version or the same level of patches that are there in the current version of the application. So if the application needs a certain OS, for example, S4HANA database of a certain version, you have to make sure it's of the same version. If the database has to be of a certain, of certain version, needs OS update, then you have to do the OS update. Now, in case of cloud, this would be instances of cloud versions, and this could be in SAP Data Center, they could be AWS, Amazon Web Services, they could be Microsoft Azure, or it could be GPC, Google, or just GCP, what we call as Google Cloud Platform. So any of these would really work out for them. So that's what we do in terms of installation and upkeep of the system at the installation level, whether it's on premises or the cloud, it differs. On-prem, you will have to do complete turnkey implementation or installation, and cloud, you will have to request and manage what we call as integration or interface with SAP Data Center, or if you use AWS or Microsoft Data Center or Google Cloud Platform, GCP, then you'll have to work with SAP to make sure that the configuration for installation is up to the standard that is expected from the client. So installation was the first one. The second thing you do, performance tuning and security, right? So you would have to make sure that all the RZ parameters, right, which is installation parameters, log on, log off parameters, right? All the security configurations are there. Any patches that are to be installed using SPAM, SPAM, or SAINT, SAINT are installed. And the system, if you have to create system logon groups, which is SLG, system logon groups, and you'll have to do, if you want to allocate memory to each of these groups and do performance optimization by creating segmentation in the system, you'll have to do that. Furthermore, if you want to install multiple application in different server using ALE, which is ABAP Link Enabler, you can also use the transaction SALE, and you can distribute the application into different server. For example, supply chain can be a different server, master data management can be a different server. So all of this is done in terms of performance management and general health upkeep of the system. The next thing we are going to do is upgrades, right? The number 3 is upgrades. So you will look at upgrading the system at roughly every 6 months, right? If it's a cloud solution and it's a public cloud, SAP might upgrade every 3 to 4 months. If it's a private cloud, it would be every 6 months to 12 months, but they will inform you and they will take concurrence from you in order to upgrade that. So the system administrator will look after the technical upgrade. The technical upgrade means you will have to do command like SPDD, which is data dictionary object changes, and manage those changes and side effects nodes that the new functionality of a technical upgrade will bring in. As I said before in one of the videos, if 8-digit field becomes 10-digit, or the table get converged into one table, just like we have AC Doc and Mad Doc in S4HANA, then the technical guy has to manage those installation and changes to data dictionary objects. It's called SPDD. You will also manage authorization objects using command called SPAU, which is PAU, and you will manage those all security configuration aspects, including downloading the server and the client side SSL certificate, which is secured socket layer certificates, and also protocols, which is SMTP protocols, right? So those protocols, which are handshaking with the KPI infrastructure as well as security certificates, need to be managed by the system administrator. So he'll take care of upgrades frequently. And in case of a functional upgrade, when you do a technical upgrade, next they want to use the new order type or they want to use the new functionalities, you will support and you will still manage all the transports and configuration aspects. The third thing in a project mode that the system administrator will do is he will create two kind of users. One is the configuration users and second the end users. So configuration users are restricted to the project configuration. So if you are FI, CO, materials management, sales and distribution, production planning configurator, you will get user IDs for the project configuration. If you are a developer, then you will get the SCCR key, which is a developer key that you need in order to make changes to the tables. And if you are testing, then you will replicate the end user ID and create the user acceptance test users. So you'll create them for the consultants as well as you'll create them for the actual users who are going to sign off the use cases in the QA server. Finally, you will also create the actual production system where you will create the end users, you will have to do all the security configuration, and you will have to go to what we call as a firefighter. In some cases, it's called SAP all, SAP underscore all, which means it has all the authorizations to make changes in the production system. However, a consultant will never go and do end user work in a production system. That means you will not enter end user data, you will not enter end user master data, because you are not the actual user or the owner of the system. You are a consultant and you're not supposed to do end user work, right? So that's totally out of scope of a consultant. So the next up, what they will do is backup and security aspects of it. So backup and archiving and security is another function that the system administrator does. So regular backups, which would be in case of a cloud, which is Grow with SAP HANA, which is a public cloud, or Rise with SAP HANA, which is a private cloud. SAP might have frequencies where it goes and upgrades those systems, as well as maintains real-time archiving and a backup function for those servers. So when they do backup, you will have to keep monitoring those instances. And in with that, you will also do your routine tasks, which is daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly tasks that a system administrator has to do in terms of performance tuning. It might be indexing tables, it might be cleaning up buffers, it might be managing exceptions for the interfaces or custom programs that come into the system. So that's another task that the system administrator does. Last but not the least, you will do what we call as training and user knowledge transition. So what the knowledge sharing and the user transition means, you will have to create documentation to help and support the different technical folks in the company. For example, there might be a server administrator, there might be a database administrator, there might be SAP folks if it is actually the SAP data center, or it might be Google or Microsoft Azure, or it might be AWS technical architects who might be working with you. So this is level 4 support, where it may not be directly linked to SAP, but it might be linked to database, operating system, infrastructure. In a lot of cases, we create what we call as virtual servers, VMs, or we create what we call as now containers. Containers are the new functionality which is using DevOps, using tools like Dockers. You'll also manage configuration management system, both in AWS, Microsoft, or Google, or SAP. And you might even look at Kubernetes in order to manage multiple instances of containers, as well as use DevOps tools like Jenkins to automate CI/CD, which is continuous implementation and continuous deployment of applications ongoing. So there you go, guys. That's in short what a system administrator does. We will dive deeper into it, and I'm going to display this in a system in a future date, what these tasks look like. A lot of cases, you might have to restart the cloud instance or the on-premises instance. You will have to have a remote logon functionality for yourself. You also have to manage connections with different systems like RFC connections or API connections or external web interface connections. We call it Webby or OData connections, right? In case of SAP, there is a system called BTP, which was originally called PI or XI, Process Integration or XI Server, which has all the APIs built into one system, and it used to manage all the interfaces for external systems. Now that system is called BTP, where all the partners load on their APIs, and they manage their APIs as an external separate server in the cloud, and originally it was called PI and XI. The system administrator also manages what we call it the front-end servers for Fiori extensions. So the back-end server is a private cloud or a public cloud. It's the same old server that SAP has in S/4HANA, but the extension is using what we used to originally call as NetWeaver. It uses FES, and then you see the tile-based system in the front. So you also have to convert those transactions, T codes, into tile. It doesn't take too much of time, but managing them, whenever you change any transactions, especially the custom transactions, then you will have to manage those on the tile-based application with Fiori or HTML5 front end. So there you go, guys. Those are the basic tasks that a system administrator will do. And if you find this information useful, please give it a thumbs up and do like and subscribe this channel. I'm a certified enterprise SAP architect and a project manager and Scrum Master. I run a company called SAP Technologies, which is a SAP service partner. We are doing in-house implementation as well as customer implementation. We also help consultants get deployed into both our in-house projects and the client projects. So please reach out to us. Our email or our consultant team or consulting team's email is carriers@sapsol.com, and that is carrers@sapsol.com. Or you can also log on to our portal, which is the project-based recruitment portal called www.hirerig.ai. So that's an AI-based portal. We have built an API for SAP to integrate that with HCM module of SAP, and we'll be getting this certified from SAP. So hope you like and subscribe to this channel, guys. And this is Sam Moll signing off for SAP Careers and Job Seekers Group. Thank you, guys.